little bit off screen. Okay. So, first paragraph done. That's all, sorry, those are all of the p cubed, which I've been able to spot in the first paragraph. As we make that our focus for translation, let's take a look into the second paragraph. And Maxime, repeat, please. It isn't. One thing that's worth noting is every p cubed is going to have a stem that ends in either t, like adducta, scriptis, amata. There are a few that also have a stem that ends in s, like, and you guys don't know this word, the word sponsus, sponsa, sponsum, ends in s. But, see, back to you, Luki.
I have a question. Why would the preposition be present?
Yes, puto, putara is a first conjugation verb. Its participle would be putatas, not to be confused with potatoes. Okay, very different. Yes? Nota, way down here. Yes. Okay. That's the p cubed we saw in lesson 42 when they intend to have us in general situations translate as an adjective, but that is definitely a p cubed. Augusta?
Dato.
Good. So we've got da toes in line 11. What about da fingers? No, sorry, that was a bad joke. Mars.
Traductos.
Yeah. Traductos in line 14. Excellent. Okay. Now we've got the second paragraph done. Push on down to the third paragraph. Yes. Spatium is actually not a participle. It's a noun, spatium, spatii. See any others? Mars? It isn't actually. If it's got an I in front of the A, it can't be a participle. If there's an I between the T and the A, it can't quite be. So we've actually found them all. And so rather than send us on a further wild goose chase, what I'd like to do is swiftly make our way through translation of these. In certain instances, like as I mentioned earlier on nota up above, there are going to be times when a p cubed shows up and it's going to work really, really well to translate it with a standard adjective. In lesson 42, notus auum means known, or what's that other meaning? Familiar, okay? In other situations, the cookie cutter translation is going to work. And I'm going to suggest we use the cookie cutter translation only for the word amata up here. What would the cookie cutter translation of it be? Yes? Loved, or you could also use the longer version, having been loved. Okay. For most of the rest of these, I'm going to suggest that we use subordinate clauses. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see how I don't want to say amazingly or confusingly, but how splendidly complicated this first sentence is. And before we get there, though, I want to ask you, is this indeed the first sentence of the letter? No, what is? doesn't it? In the title of the story? Okay. Something I want to go back and, whoops, re-emphasize since we did such a hasty job of it in lesson 39. This is the typical, what do you call the opening of a letter? Salutation or greeting of a letter. This is one typical form of it. It is either the abbreviation SAL, which is short for salutem. You guys remember? Third declension, yeah. No? Oh goodness, I'm glad I'm reviewing this because yes, it will be on the final. Oh dear. Okay. I said the F word already in this lecture and we're not even 10 minutes into it. If you find people, turn back to lesson 39. There was a lesson entitled Publius, Publii, Sal, period, footnote number 1. And in the margarine, oh, I better not make jokes like that again, or oil get in trouble. Get it? Margarine, butter, oil. Okay. Okay. Good thing these letters aren't about grease. Oh my gosh, terrible. These are actually ones I recycle every year. Um, so yeah, getting a little rancid at this point in time. Anyway, not that oil gets rancid ever. If you look at the note number 1, this is on page 266. Okay, Sal is an abbreviation for salutem dicit, says greetings. Okay. Now, to us, that might seem an awkward way to handle it. But what I want you guys to notice, and we're seeing a different form of it in lesson 43, and that's okay. We've got a nominative subject. We've got a dative indirect object. We've got an abbreviated accusative direct object, which in its full form is spelled salutem. And then we've got our good old transitive verb, which in the abbreviation just gets dropped off. Okay. Now, there are times when this common salutation is even further abbreviated. Do you guys remember SD? I talked to you about it in lesson 39. What is it an abbreviation for? Salutem dicit. Do you remember SPD? No, I'm glad I'm reading. The P is short for the adjective plurimum. In the context of a letter, plurimum means very great. Okay. So you could translate it as very great or very fond. Let's translate it as if it were SPD. Oh, come on. Publia says, or we can idiomatically say sends. The S and the P, reverse them. Very fond or very large greetings to Publius. Okay. And in this letter, you're seeing a very common opening salutation to a letter. Usually the Romans wanting to conserve space because when they wrote, okay, it's like Jake, he wants to conserve his energy, so he pretends to fall asleep because it seems to conserve energy. Okay, all right. You know, it actually costs energy because Nick will have to apply the 120 volt electrodes to keep you awake. Okay. You'll be Frankenpot from here on out. Okay. Right. Anyway, getting back to this. The Romans, in their letters, often used abbreviations because they really wanted to conserve space. It was expensive to write on papyrus if they were choosing to write in that form. Even on wax tablets, it wasn't expensive to write on wax tablets, but you'd want to conserve the space available for the meaningful stuff, like the gossip that Publia is engaged in. Any of you guys catch how much gossip she's involved in? Yeah, I think they named a TV show after her, Gossip Girl. Oh, sorry, that was not funny either. All right, so Publius sends greetings to Publius. What does adducta modify? Can't modify literis, very different ending.
Yeah.
Te is referring to Publius, and Publius is very masculine. That A is either very feminine or very neuter. I hope Publius hasn't suffered a neutering accident in Gallia as he fights with Caesar's forces. Okay. Yes. Malta's kind of far away. It's potentially describing Malta, but between Malta and adducta, there's a conjunction, and there's also a verb. And participles don't usually reach all the way across and past verbs. Flaminia, another thought? Yeah, it's describing Publia, Gesundheit, the I subject of respondebo, who is feminine, nominative, and singular. We're going to get to translating it in just a moment, but let's take a look now at scriptis. What does it modify? Athena? One more time? It can't because scriptis is definitely a plural ending and Gallia is definitely a singular ending. It couldn't quite be because Publi is, I take it as vocative singular of the name of Publius. Angela, do you have another option? Yeah, it actually modifies literis. And you guys are getting to see the extreme lengths to which Romans will separate their nouns from their participle. But counting on the logic of Latin grammar, and I know you guys might say, what logic? Okay. We've got both of these as being ablative and plural, and they can be feminine. And so let's take them together. Let's also notice, sandwiched between the noun and the participle, is a lovely, 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 lovely set of modifiers. Prepositional phrase, vocative case noun, prepositional phrase. Okay. All right. I'm going to ask someone a terrible question. There's very little chance you'll get it right, and that's okay. Joey, don't feel picked upon. It's the very first word you want to translate. Okay? And what is it? What is the verb, the theoretical, magical verb that you want to translate? Okay, I half agree with you. Go ahead, translate it. Yeah. I will reply or I will respond. I'm going to use reply because it's 5 letters and respond to 7, and I'm just that lazy. All right, so that's not a bad instinct. It's a good instinct. I am inclined to just pull off of respondebo the I subject And note what we noted with Joy, that adducta, the participle, describes that I subject. I'm going to encourage you guys to translate adducta with a with a subordinate clause. It is a participle, but I want to translate it with a subordinate clause. And my instinct is to translate it with a causal clause. Okay, Maxime? Okay, let's pause for just a second. I'm going to start off with the because. If we wanted to, we could embed all of that between the I and will, but I'm going to be slow, and I'm also going to be deliberate and put it way out in front. Because I have been influenced. And you went a step beyond in a way that is actually kind of interesting and good. You brought in literis as an ablative of means. Because I have been influenced by the letters, or if you want to, remember that even though literis is plural, it can refer to a single piece of mail, a single epistle. I'm on that basis going to translate it just with the singular word letter. Okay. I'm going to drop the word your out of what Cole suggested just because, okay, because of what comes in between. So, because I've been influenced by the letter, Peter, subordinate clause, how about a relative? That's great. Yeah, I'm just curious where you're going to go. That's excellent. Okay. So, you were right, because you have to pull the I subject out of respondebo. And then noting that adducta, which I've just erased, modifies that I subject. You can translate respondebo all the way as I will reply, or you can begin with the participle. And I chose that path simply because I know that there's more coming after respondebo. Okay. So because I've been influenced by the letter which was written by you in Gaul, or which was written in Gaul by you, Publius, I will reply. Go ahead. Would it bug you if I wrote the word questions? Okay. I don't want to turn you into a cockroach, so I'll write the word things. Make what perfect? Scriptis is a perfect passive participle.
So you want to make it I wrote or you wrote.
Oh, the third principal part is scripsi,
Right. Then it's scripsis.
which you wrote would be scripsisti.
Right.
All right. I don't know what that has to do with the price of beer in Taiwan, but there we go. All right. There are many new things. What do you think? Our homie Quintus has led the third daughter of Rufus into marriage. I did not foresee this. Quintus didn't ask me. Sorry. I'm trying to play the role of someone who is an inveterate gossip, someone who likes to stick her nose in business where it doesn't belong. So this. Okay. She didn't ask me. I don't know. Sorry, my hand gestures don't translate to video, thank goodness. I don't do this thing very well, the gossipy, nose in other people's business type of person. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Okay, did you foresee this? Okay, do you remember the girl? Small and shy slash fearful. Okay, she is no nyam. She is no longer shy. Now she is beautiful. And this is one of those places where maybe a simple cookie cutter translation of the participle works best. Okay, she is now beautiful, comma. Well, let's see what Kaisar has to say. Yeah, loved by many men or loved by many people. Okay, questions in there? All right, no more hand gestures. Joey, you're gonna have to show me how it's done later. Joy is an expert. Okay, all right. All right, I'd like to push on. I'd like to do a little bit more translation of this paragraph. Well, I'd like you guys to do a little bit more translation of this paragraph. I do want to say, even though we're a sentence away from nota, nota is one of those P cubes where it's really good to stick with it as just a straight up adjective, to pretend it's a straight up adjective, meaning known or familiar. All right. The reason I want to work in this paragraph is there are a few more third declension nouns and other good things for us to get extra practice with. So, shall we resort to the popsicle sticks or volunteers? Volunteers. Well, let's go with popsicle sticks volunteers until they run out. Augusta.
Do you want me to read it?
That's okay at this point. We're short on time.
You wrote about the General Caesar's excellent victories.
All right, excellently translated. You wrote, or you have written, either way is good, about the General Caesar's. Both of these words are genitive, third declension. The General Caesar's outstanding or excellent victories. Okay. You could also translate it as you have written about the outstanding victories of the General Caesar, and that would be okay. All right. Good. Pass it on to a volunteer.
So, with much enthusiasm, great enthusiasm, I have read your letters for the last.
Ultima can mean last. It can also mean farthest or very distant.
So, I translate that like a straight line.
Straight line.
Like when I go from left to right, or how see how much that.
Um, you can sort of straight line it. Take Ultima with Gallia, and then you can pretty much straight line it.
So the farthest goal.
Yeah, for farthest or most distant Gaul. Yeah, for most distant or farthest Gaul. And then if you want to get the perfect tenseness out of Fuit, you can say has always been a land new or strange. So a land strange and Excellent, and not familiar to me. Okay, good. All right, questions? Any volunteers? Okay. Pass it on. You have several there, Joey.
I am a few messengers came down from Gaul, which announced that announced like Gauls.
Okay, that's pretty good. Um, I'm going to perhaps tweak how you translated qui. Since messengers are broadly speaking people, rather than using which, we might use who. So from Gaul, and then you might not like the way I'm tweaking some of the English word order, but English word order is more flexible than you guys know, or more comfortable than you're using. And you might try to build that flexibility in English. So down from Gaul or from Gaul, there have come a few messengers who have reported or announced the flight of the Gauls. Okay. All right, good. Onwards. Volunteer, pick one. That's good. I'm going to ask for a slight tweak on where you think suis might fit in. Excellent, good. Yeah, this is a word you guys haven't encountered yet. You'll meet it in Latin 3. It's his own or his when it's referring to the same person as the subject. So with his victories, Caesar has increased the glory and fame of the Roman soldiers, and he has produced peace, or brought about peace. Okay. All right, good. 10. Last one. Salus means safety or well-being or health. Okay, good. Yep, I'm going to tweak it just a little bit to on the front end, but we feel grateful. This idiom, we have gratitude. We can also translate as we feel grateful to Caesar, excuse me, because he has fought for our health, for our safety. And that's good. Questions in there? Okay. Next sentence, do note, we have the p cubed datos. And this is one where I'm going to kind of push for us to use a subordinate clause. Um, so if you're volunteering, be aware of that. Cole, would you mind passing it on? Okay, Emma? Now hang on, give me just 1 second because I'm going to try a trick. It's probably not going to work, but come on. Okay, that's all right. I can work with that. Watch. I'm not as silly as you think. Ah. All right, so no, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I am as silly as you think, and go ahead, laugh at me. Okay. See, the nice thing is I can, if you guys will be patient with me, I can create a little movable text box that will create a little place for us to write or me to write or something. I don't know. I don't know what it will do, but it will keep you entertained while I make mistakes with it. Anyway, Athena, you are going to do an awesome job translating this. I don't want to give you the wrong answer, sort of the way Joey thinks I gave him the wrong answer. Um, if you think about datos, the p cubed, we're going to want to hold off on translating it until we get to the word that it describes and translate it. And galos looks like that's the word, but it also looks very accusative. So, I mean, the short answer is yes. I want to make this a little bit more active. Not be scared, but fear. Doesn't it look like I'm scared? My hand's shaking. It's curvy letters. What about known and yam? Those look like adverbs that it'd be valuable to translate with the verb since they fall outside of the noun p cubed. No longer. Your time is up. Now there's room for a tweak. There's an idiom lurking here in this room. What does do plus in fugam mean? It's really not good to translate do as give here. Put to flight, okay? Or cause to flee. So it's really a stretch from what it sounds like, but this idiom is worth noting, and Cynthia, well done, okay? Yeah. Okay. Who have been made to flee, who have been caused to flee. That's great. If you wanted to, you could say who have been put to flight. Now, that relative clause is a super way to translate it. It's very safe. It's very good. Do you guys have another option? Not to say that there's anything wrong with what Emma did, but Jake? You could translate it as a causal clause. If the Gauls have been caused to run screaming back to their big hairy wives, okay, because they're big hairy Gauls, they probably have big hairy wives, then the Romans have no need to fear. Okay. All right, excellent. Good. Um, questions? Yes. Yeah. Basically, one of these days you'll get into AP Latin or Latin 4, and your favorite Latin teacher, if she comes back from the retirement, I was about to say the dead, but I hope that's not true. If she comes back from retirement, um, will tell you that do, in addition to the meaning we've given it in the textbook, give, its most basic meaning is put. Okay? So if I put a pen there for you, I'm giving it to you. Okay? What's that? Well, it's not one of those James Bond exploding pens, so don't get your hopes up. I, no, I mean, don't get your hopes up that you can steal it from him and use it to break free from, the prison. As Jake was saying, this semester needs to be over. Right? Did you say mate somewhere in that sentence? Let's move on. Um, volunteer for the next sentence. Joy? Okay. It is. See, Alps is the subject of defendant. So the Alps, which stand between us and the Gauls, now, right. Well, you don't have to. Hmm. Yeah, will not transport or yeah, bring in milites for the shy Gauls or fearful Gauls. Excellent. Okay. All right. Excuse me. Good. Pardon me. Yeah, milites is there as the direct object of transportabunt. For the fearful Gauls will not transport the soldiers or their soldiers across the Alps. All right, this next little bit is worth translating, not because it is the best sentence ever, it's actually one that's a real pain in the rear, but because it's got traductus in it. Okay. Pass it on. Let's let Mauro have a go since he hasn't translated yet. If that works. I want to tweak this a little bit. Um, we got milites traductos, this in the accusative, and it's the direct object of reducere. So we really can't translate this till we translate reducere. But this is one of those sentences where in some ways it is best to go to the end first. Okay. So try erit endurum. Guys, a little self-control back there. Well, I think it's neuter with an it subject. Inerit is future tense. And then we have to bring gallis in with durum. It's you guys are not used to seeing these adjectives with a dative. This is something I'll teach you next year called the dative of reference. But there are some special adjectives like familiar, which take a dative of reference, familiar to me. So does durum, which means hard or difficult. It will be difficult not for me, but for, yeah. I before I go further, I'd pull the re off of reducere and go ahead and translate it for the Gauls to lead. I want to get the re, which has the force of back, to lead back their soldiers. And guys, I know we're kind of losing it with the time and everything, but traduktos is a p cubed that modifies the soldier. And this is one where, again, we want to search for a relative clause or a temporal clause or some type of subordinate clause. What Publia is saying is, if the Gauls lead their soldiers across the Alps, it will be difficult for them to get their soldiers back alive. Okay, and I'm paraphrasing that, but this might be a place where we might even want to stretch for a conditional clause, because what she's saying is, in the future, the Alps are going to protect us. So it will be hard for the Gauls to lead back their soldiers if, yeah, if they have been led across. And I'm kind of pushing this forward to the end, but it's making the point that if any soldiers, Gallic soldiers, are led across the Alps in the first place, it will be difficult for them to be led back home alive. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call it quits there. We never did get back to exercise 43B today. That's a bummer. Okay, but we will tomorrow. Hang on just a second.